From the Telegraph, first cousin marriage has benefits, says NHS guidance despite birth defect risk. Tory MP says health services should stop taking the knee to damaging cultural practices. Yeah, people like me, sensible people that have been pointing out for years, the adherents of the woke ideology appear to be willing to excuse any and all behaviour from these minority groups that they deem to be on the victim pyramid. I've been saying that for years, pointing out that if they set off a dirty bomb in the middle of London and killed 100,000 people, the next day British politicians would go on TV with a straight face and say, you know what the real problem? I mean, yeah, they killed 100,000 people, but you know what the real problem is? Bigotry. Yeah, prejudice against the blokes that run into pop concerts with hissing backpacks and spread the women and kids up against the walls. Apparently the biggest problem is prejudice. So I've got very low standards of what I expect from the British government. But this one even somehow took me by surprise. I never dreamed, despite everything I've said, that the NHS would now be pro-relative rattling. You live and learn, eh? Okay, we've all seen the stories. I think I've made plenty of videos over the last 4 or 5 years. Baroness Varsi looking into this issue, pointing out that the cousin bummers that insist on doing it, jump in the bones of the closest relatives. It causes a massive amount of birth defects. We've all seen the numbers. I don't need to dig into it anymore, do I? You've all seen the numbers. Despite making up an extremely small percentage of the nation, that group, the relative rattlers, they basically dominate the genetic defect charts. Because like Philip of Spain, who famously was like Quasimodo, wonky-faced inbred that he was, they refuse to stop doing it. And it shouldn't surprise us, because they'll essentially defend them when they mass murder women and children. So it shouldn't surprise us that much. But I never assumed men of science, well, apparently men of science, doctors, scientists, nurses. I never assumed an organisation that is, at least on the face of it, purely all about medicine and the medical industry. I never assumed they would also bend the knee and basically sign off on a practice that everybody knows is toxic to the health and well-being of society. So sit back and relax. If you are a member of that community and you do ram your cousins with alarming frequency, you can sit back, maybe use this time to go and feed your gibbering, chinless, big-eared offspring with webbed feet. Okay, you can go and do that, and we'll read the story. This piece is from Joe Pinkstone, the science correspondent at The Telegraph. The NHS has been urged to apologise for publishing guidance extolling the benefits of first cousin marriage, despite the increased risk of birth defects. Guidance published last week by the NHS England's Genomics Education Programme says first cousin marriage is linked to stronger extended family support systems and economic advantages. Yes, because having healthy, intelligent children is definitely outweighed by the fact you can have a few more quid in your bank while you're pushing Slothette's wheelchair around the local park. Yeah, love that. But the practice has also been linked to oppression of women and also has a proven increased risk of genetic disease in offspring of first cousin relationships. Richard Holden, the Tory MP, told the Mail on Sunday our NHS should stop taking the knee to damaging and oppressive cultural practices. The Conservatives want to see an end to cousin marriage as a backdoor to immigration too, but Labour are deaf to these sensible demands. Labour are deaf to everything sensible. They are deaf to common sense and deaf to your country. Sir Keir Starmer, gay, should stop running scared of the misogynistic community controllers and their quislings who appear in the form of cultural relativist-obsessed sociology professors and ban a practice the overwhelming majority from every community in Britain want to see ended for good. Want to see ended for good. It's shagging your cousins, your relatives. It's abhorrent. It's genuinely appalling. No right-minded person thinks it's acceptable. But again, we've proved, the last 3 decades have proved, that they can do whatever they like. We've got a two-tier legal system, a two-tier education system, because all the poorest minorities get to go to university, while the poor white kids don't. And we've even got a two-tier, shagging system. You're not allowed to rattle your relatives, but the Prime Minister will lube you up and guide you in if you're an inbred Bangladeshi and you want some more inbred mutants to be a drain on the state. It's unbelievable. Marrying a first cousin is legal in the UK. Well, why is it legal? Why is it legal? Oh, yeah, that's why. Because the people who practice it all have a certain dusky appearance about them. That's why it's legal. But it increases the risk of children inheriting genetic conditions. Sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis are all more likely to be carried or contracted in children with parents who are closely related. Unbelievable. Cultures that encourage first cousin marriage have been accused of oppressing women and being used as a tool to suppress personal freedoms. Yeah, they haven't really said much about the melting women's faces off with battery acid either, have they? No, it's not really a problem. Dowry and melting a prospective partner's lips off because of some barbaric third world cultural practice is totally acceptable. Yeah. High corrosive substances in little girls' faces as long as you've got a certain look about you. And it ain't this look. Dr. Patrick Nash, an expert on religious law and director of the Pharaohs Foundation's Social Science Research Group in Oxford, called the guidance truly dismaying. Cousin marriage is incest, plain and simple, and needs to be banned with the utmost urgency. There is no balance to be struck between this cultural lifestyle choice and the severe public health implications it incurs. This official article is deeply misleading and should be retracted with an apology so the public is not misled by omission and half-truths. The NHS guidance points out that the practice has been legal in the UK since the 1500s as a loophole for King Henry to marry Catherine Howard, his ex-wife's cousin. Okay then, make everything that was legal in the 1500s legal now, yeah? Do it. I want to go to the school play with a broadsword on my hip in chainmail armour, just in case it kicks off in the car park afterwards. The document mentions that marriage between cousins has long been the subject of scientific discussion based on the slight increase in the risk of inheriting diseases. But there are other things that increase the risk of this too, such as alcohol and smoking, and none of that's banned in the UK. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. A spokesman for NHS England said the article published on the website of the Genomics Education Programme is a summary of existing scientific research and the public policy debate. It is not expressing an NHS view. Unbelievable. Well, that is staggering. It's almost worse. I mean, we know that they'll stick up for the people, the suicide bombers. And the day after they kill a load of women and kids, the state is apparently more interested in their fees than the little girls who've got to scrape off the pavement. We know that, but for some reason, I guess this was a blind spot. I never ever assumed medical science types would all be on board with Roger and your relatives, as long as the people that were doing it practice a certain, Bronze Age desert fable. So here we are. Brilliant. I love that. Imagine how much money it's costing the NHS to look after all these gibbering mutants. Imagine that. They're always talking about coin, but nothing. They don't care about coin when the regulars at the snack bar are folding up the relatives. So it's a crazy time to be alive. I don't know why that slipped by me, but I should have expected it. My already lower than low, through the floor expectations from the British government and the healthcare professionals has somehow got even lower. So I will not be getting a procedure if I move back to the UK and I get ill. I'll just get my missus to dust the cake crumbs off the kitchen table and just poke at my organs with her own sharp implements, because I don't trust the absolute clown show that is the British NHS at the moment. Anyway, but that's just my opinion. If you disagree and you think it's totally progressive to pump your relatives and squeeze out a few inbred simpletons that are going to be a drain on the state for the rest of your life, please let me know in the comments. All right, that's me for the day. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.